And I want to use this opportunity with the support of my colleague members of parliament, since we all support this bill, to serve notice to the Western powers that we have taken judicial notice of what they have done to the Speaker of Uganda. After Uganda passed the bill, the sanctions on the Speaker of Uganda's parliament and on the sponsors of those bills, we will serve notice as well that if they replicate same with our Speaker and members of parliament, we will also take action against their business interests in our country. Because they serve in this country and make money from here and take back home. They cannot hold us to ransom.
That's how you become a prostitute. Because you fear to sacrifice, you fear difficulties. Somebody says, I will give you money if you become a prostitute.
It's 100% true. Fact check it. Do your research. This is not a theory. But the fact is, however, quite a conspiracy that Kamala has sanctioned African countries for writing anti-LGBTQ laws and has threatened other black countries on the continent with sanctions if they make any new laws of such for their countries. We'll tell you what to do. Us ethical Americans should tell you what to do, Africa, right? Notice how I said she threatened black countries, because they aren't threatening the Muslim countries whose anti-gay laws are even more strict. Why's that? Well, for two reasons that most are aware of. Reason one, the Western colonizers have always been hypocrites, and they just won't change their ways on that. And two, because the West has always been known to bully poor countries. But are they also just plain? How could that be when the only two American administrations that sanctioned the black African countries were Obama, after his visit in 2013 in Johannesburg, and then Kamala Harris, after her visit in April 2023. Kamala came back to America painting a victory in Africa. Oh, it was a great showing. Great, we got along so well. And American relations are better than they've ever been. But in reality, if you ask any of those countries that she visited how it turned out for them in the long run, your answer will be clear. I encourage those of you in Africa to write the comments down below, please, about what happened after the Kamala Harris visit. And that way, those watching don't think I'm making this up. It was a catastrophe.
And that's what they want us to be. They want Africa to be prostitutes. Do what we don't believe in because we want money. And this is what I told them. Whenever they come to me, I say, you please shut up. Now, I want to congratulate the honorable members of parliament on your stand on the Ebitingwa. That's what the Banyankwele call what they call homosexuals. It is good that you rejected the pressure from the imperialists.
I'm wondering, is the LGBT community a part of the future of Rwanda?
LGBT.
Homosexuality.
Yes. It hasn't been our problem. And we don't intend to make it a problem.
Kamala went there to push the Western human rights agendas, LGBTQ basically, onto African countries whose culture disagrees with that lifestyle, period. It's not their problem, they say. But Kamala is making sure it becomes their problem.
And let me be clear about where we stand. First of all, for the American press who are here, you know that a great deal of work in my career has been to address human rights issues, equality issues across the board, including as it relates to the LGBT community.
We equally reject attempts to prescribe new rights that are contrary to our values, norms, traditions, and beliefs. We are not gays.
I will also say that this is an issue that we consider, and I consider, to be a human rights issue, and that will not change.
We want the report. Don't be intimidated by any person. As the Vice President just did yesterday. I mean, these things should not not be tolerated. That is undemocratic. What is democracy? That somebody else will have to dictate to me as to what is good and what is bad? Unheard of.
To put it point blank, if they accept the LGBTQ over in Africa and enact gay right laws, then they'll get money. They'll get gifts and acceptance from the West. If they don't accept it, they'll get sanctioned, and the West will try to ruin them financially. So what we're looking at here, ladies and gentlemen, is a bribe. The West is bribing them to turn gay, to get gay. Population control, maybe. They want to minimize population? That's a theory. But let me ask you this. Have you ever had to be bribed to do something that is good for you? No, you haven't. That's why they need to bribe you to do this, because it's just not healthy.
We're leading with science, not stigma. We made human rights for LGBT around the world a top priority in my foreign policy. Increasing our assistance to brave activists on the ground, defending human rights in countries that passed anti-gay laws like Uganda, going after Uganda, making clear that they cannot have the same benefit.
I was saying, Honorable Speaker, if there's anything I support President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on, is on the issue of LGBT. But we must be forthright as a nation to protect our own cultures, our religion, and our beliefs. And we must not allow those countries from the West who believe in those things, let them believe in whatever they want to believe in, but they must not force us to believe in the things they believe in. They must also respect our culture, our religion, and the things we believe in, but not shove things down our throats, the things we don't believe in. And we want to raise up our children in an upright country, in an upright society, Honorable Speaker, where our children will enjoy to grow the way we grew up, with morals, with good ethics, Honorable Speaker, and in a country that we can all be proud to raise our kids in, Honorable Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know where the world is going to. Mr. Speaker, this is abominable. Those people are dead as human beings who support such things. In my faith, as a Muslim, the death penalty is what they deserve, people who engage in such things. If we allow them to take over our lives, we have allowed them for far too long for them to exploit us and to dehumanize us as human beings. On this, we will say no. If they're going to come up with the travel, restrictions, keep your country, keep your cultures, keep your nonsense to yourselves. And I'm talking to the West in this case here. Capital punishment, Mr. Speaker. They have their own capital punishment on murderers, on other people. Most of them are blacks who have been framed in the US, and we cannot interfere in their laws. They go on killing those people there because they say they committed murders. Here we are telling them this thing is worse than murder for us in our cultures as Africans, as black people.
Now, if Africa thinks that Obama and Biden and Kamala were crazy left-wing liberals who operated outside of their culture and moral values of the way of life in Africa, they haven't seen nothing yet, because Tim Walz, Kamala's vice presidential sidekick, is the most extreme LGBTQ, XYZ, PDQ, RSTUV, etc., letter gay rights advocate that I may have ever seen in such a high-powered office. Anybody may have ever seen. People move to Minnesota so that they can get their kids' stuff whacked off and get their children a different gender than they were created by God. Walz, who also served as governor of Minnesota since 2019, in a March 2023 executive order, made the state among the first to protect seekers and providers of gender-affirming healthcare from prosecution by states with bans in effect. The following month, Walz signed legislation safeguarding access to care. And you'll notice in this video is Walz with a 12-year-old was boy, now girl, helped him get a sex change, and of course made a public display out of the kid. So with this in mind, please understand what you're voting for here is the next, what America's going to look like. Tim Walz has definitely showcased what is possible. He'd be a great asset to the ticket, said Sean Malloy, Vice President of Political Programs at the LGBTQ+ Victory Fund, which works to elect more LGBTQ people to the public office. Here we can see Walz in Minnesota marching with the gay pride as he's marched through all the gay pride events in Minnesota. They're very big supporters of him, and they should be, because he's doing a heck of a thing for them. He is really pushing their agenda, and in more extreme ways than we think we've ever seen before. So Kamala and Walz would make Biden and Harris look like conservative Republicans. They would make them look like Trumpsters, like MAGAs. And they apparently aren't real friendly with the black Africans who don't bow to them. Courthouse News Service Media, Saturday, September 14th, 2024. U.S. threatens to pull aid over the anti-LGBTQ plus bill. The legislation would impose up to 3 years in prison for identifying as LGBTQ plus. Washington, U.S. warned Thursday that it could restrict foreign aid to Ghana if African country's president signs into law a new bill criminalizing identifying as LGBTQ+. United States State Department spokesperson Matt Miller said on Thursday, should the bill pass, it would potentially have ramifications on U.S. assistance. But the bill needs a signature from the president, Nana Akufo-Addo. But he has previously said it would approve it if it's supported by the majority of Ghanaians. The U.S. provided more than $211 million in assistance to Ghana in fiscal year 2022, with the money supporting a variety of sectors like agriculture and efforts to combat malaria and AIDS. It's unclear how much money would be halted in response to the law. Many African countries criminalize same-sex activity, but recently legislators have moved to strengthen such laws across the continent. Washington recently restricted $20 million of aid it provided Uganda in response to the law. Africa has over 1.4 billion people residing on that continent. It's 4 times the amount of the people in the United States. 4 times. Now, Donald Trump, he came out proclaiming that he doesn't like sanctions. He wants to get rid of all the sanctions because it hurts the relationships, it hurts trade and the economy. Not only do sanctions in the countries that get sanctioned get hurt, but in the United States as well. Trump has been very vocal on his dislike for sanctioning other countries. Like on First Channel News, Trump said to Bloomberg, so what we're doing with sanctions is we're forcing everyone away from us. So I don't love sanctions, Trump said. Trump was sometimes hesitant to impose sanctions on Russia while president, citing a desire to improve relations with the country instead. Donald Trump don't get into human rights policy changes of the other countries. He wants business to flow in and out freely. He's expressed that openly about Africa and Russia. No, not so much China because they kind of like to stick it to you. Kamala talks ear candy in such a way to touch the heart of her listeners.
It was school photo day. You remember what that's like? Going to school on picture day?
But her policies are hurtful, very hurtful, especially to countries like in Africa, the poor countries. Trump don't give ear candy, he's not going to pander to you. Anyway, but it's getting really weird over here, quite honestly, ladies and gentlemen, it's getting weird. The way it's become nothing but a big bank that's putting people further and further and further into debt, with high prices on everything, demanding its citizens and the media to bow to the LGBTQ community in such a forceful way. There's literally no getting away from it. It's on all the commercials and even plaguing the White House, Capitol buildings, and Congress and the Senate. It's taking over our schools now as early as elementary and silencing their children at the schools to keep secrets on them getting changed. You know what I mean? And it's not good. And it's as early as elementary school children, and the majority of Black Americans, that's who's putting them in there. And it's the majority of the Black Americans, 80%, are putting them in. So let me just say that if America continues down this road, Africa continues to get sanctioned, and the world has lost the value of the dollar all over. And the world has lost its ethics and morals and sanity. And its children are all running around not knowing who they are or what God made them. You know, because of the agenda thing that they got going on that they need you to bow to. And America loses its friendship with Africa. Then the government has its power to control every person. Their weapons, their wallets, their religion, their beliefs, their cultures. People are going to look back and say, it was all by design. So when your grandchildren ask you, how did it happen, Mom? How did it happen, Dad? They voted for it. Yeah, but why? Because the mind is a fragile thing. And the government knows exactly what strings to pull to get their way.